Constructors' Championship is a two-team race between McLaren and Ferrari with only a 6-point gap. And that's why McLaren have drafted veteran John Watson in to take the injured Lauda's place. And on the starting grid, it's the brilliant Ayrton Senna in his JPS Lotus in pole position with a first ever Bрэnds-Hэтч lap at over 140 miles an hour, with double world champion Nelson Piquet next, ahead of the two Williams Hondas of Nigel Mansell and Keke Rosberg. Fifth, superbly and totally unexpectedly, Frenchman Philippe Streiff in the Ligier in only his fourth Grand Prix. Then Alain Prost, 6th, Derek Warwick, 7th, Mark Surer, 8th, and down in 13th and 15th places, the Ferraris of Stefan Johansson and Michele Alboreto. Martin Brundle's 16th, John Watson, finding it hard to get back into a Grand Prix rhythm after 2 years away, is 21st, and ex-world champion Alan Jones, 22nd, in the new Beatrice. 26 to start then, 75 laps, 196 miles. Well, there is the amazing Ayrton Senna. This is his 6th pole position, and it's indicative of what he's like, that even after the first ever 140-mile-an-hour lap at Bрэnds-Hэтch yesterday, the first thing he did when he got out of the car was to come to the BBC video van and look at his lap inch by inch. He's in pole position. I have no doubt that he has heated tyres on the JPS Lotus, as he did in practice. Well, there's the answer. He has got heated tyres, and there are the blankets to retain as much heat in them as possible. Nelson Piquet is actually in an advantageous position on the grid. Although he's second fastest, he's on the outside, and it's generally agreed that if you're on the outside, you've got a better line into the first corner, the right-hander at paddock. Now, Piquet has similarly got his tyres covered up. He's worried because the Pirelli tyres on his car take longer to warm up than the Goodyear tyres on pole position man Senna's JPS Lotus, and Piquet will probably have to watch it a bit at the start, although they were trying to preheat his tyres, as has the Lotus team. Well, Nigel Mansell still smarting a bit, literally, with torn chest muscles after wrestling the car to a standstill with a broken steering wheel in practice at Spa, a quite terrifying experience. But the fastest British driver on the grid, and just about 9/10 of a second slower than Ayrton Senna. Doesn't sound very much, but it's a great deal. Mansell, by the way, was only 9th in the practice this morning, the half-hour practice. A bit unhappy with the balance of his car, but I'm sure they put that right. Mansell's teammate, Keke Rosberg, 4th on the grid and 4th in the warm-up this morning. That's a very good sign. Williams Honda, generally acknowledged to be the most powerful car on the circuit, although they have to wind the turbo boost down a lot compared with the BMW and the Renault engine, which is in Senna's car. Keke Rosberg, 1982 world champion. He went round almost exactly a second slower than Senna in qualifying for his 4th place on the grid. But this is the real surprise. Philippe Streiff, this is only his 4th Grand Prix. Before, he's driven in Formula 3000, that's the single-seater formula with 4 DFV engines, the previous Grand Prix engine. And before that, Streiff was in Formula 2, and he has taken to Grand Prix turbocharged racing like a duck to water. But even so, and even allowing for that, it's an incredible achievement. He, like Piquet incidentally, is on Pirelli tyres. Now, the world champion designate, question mark, Alain Prost, 6th on the grid, and significantly 3rd fastest in practice this morning, notwithstanding the fact that he had a bit of a wastegate problem with his turbo. You've heard what he had to say. I greeted him when he landed this morning in the helicopter, and he sounded totally relaxed and entirely composed, as well he might be, because, as he said himself, if he can just get 2 more points than Michele Alboreto, he is world champion. He can't possibly lose the World Championship today. He can only win it. And he's 16 points ahead of the Italian, who is way down in 15th place on the grid. The Professor. That car, that John Barnard car, is the best compromise of the lot. It's got enough power, it's beautifully balanced, it's on Goodyear tyres, which are ideal for racing conditions, of course, and the Pirellis are getting better. Well, there is Bрэnds-Hэтch, as you see, the start and finish on the right-hand side of your screens. They go into the right-hander at Paddock Bend. That's about 140 miles an hour. Then uphill to Druids, the tightest and slowest corner on the course, about 85 miles an hour. Downhill to that left-hander at Graham Hill Bend, which is about 130 miles an hour. What looks like a straight between Graham Hill Bend and Surtees, but if you're in a car at racing speeds is anything but straight. But then you've got the drop down, Pilgrim's Drop, and a rise up to Hawthorne, which is actually just about the fastest part on the course. Then there is a straight to the right-hander at Westfield, followed by the drop into Dingledell, then uphill a little for the right-hander into Stirling's Bend, and finally the dash underneath the bridge into Clearways and Clark Curve and the Brabham Straight, which is on the right-hand side of your screens now, named, of course, after 3 times world champion Sir Jack Brabham from Australia, who is here today to watch this race, and his son Gary has been competing in this meeting. And there are the 26 contestants. At the back, Christian Danner in the Zakspeed and Pierluigi Martini. But all eyes here today, enormous pressure on him, the red and white, very distinctive Marlboro McLaren of Alain Prost. How he stands the pressure, I do not know, but he seems to stand it extremely well. Behind Prost, slightly to his right, there we're looking at the nose of the Marlboro McLaren, is Derek Warwick in 7th position on the grid, and hopefully, for his sake, they've got the balance of the car right, which he was most unhappy with this morning. So, this is it very shortly. Each lap, 2.61 miles, 75 of them, 196 miles, and the lap record will undoubtedly be smashed.
Yes, just clearing the grid. One car halfway back on the left seems to be a reluctant start, but they've got it going. Prost, you might have noticed, had blankets on his tyres. That's an attempt to keep the temperature up so that he can get off with good grip in the early laps. But there's no doubt that Prost will be driving a conservative race today. He'll be looking for a finish in the points and hoping that Alboreto can't get up from his 15th place. So here they go on the parade lap into Paddock Bend. The road falls away quite sharply. It's a very quick, one of the most difficult corners on the entire Grand-Prix circuit. The road drops away, the car goes very light off the apex, and up the hill to Druids, under the Dunlop Bridge there. Second gear round Druids at about 80-90 miles an hour, and then accelerating away on full throttle through Bottom Bend, along the bottom straight, and then into the fairly tight left-hander, which is a third gear, second or third, depending on how they've geared their car, and then up through the gearbox, fastest part of the circuit. Incidentally, Piquet was reaching 318 kilometers an hour at the end of this straight in qualifying, which is just a fraction under 200 miles an hour. So these cars really are very quick indeed. Short squirt after Hawthorne's, as we've seen coming out of Hawthorne's and into Westfield, the corner here. Again, a difficult corner, Westfield, to get exactly right. Down the hill, and there'll probably be plenty of sparks in that dip at the bottom of the hill where they bottom on full fuel loads. The top car's tummy will touch the ground. And a little right-hand flick, short straight down to Sterling's left-hander, second slowest corner on the circuit. And then you see now they've slowed right down. Poleman will have slowed the field down because he doesn't want to arrive on the grid too soon before the others. There he is, Ayrton Senna, leading them in, just giving a little squirt to warm the rear tyres up a bit. He probably spun the wheels a bit then. And he wants the field to arrive as soon as possible after him because, remember, there are no fans on the radiators. They depend on movement to keep the engine cool. And of course, the clutch will tend to overheat if it's left in gear too long, and you wouldn't dare not have it in gear.
So, as the last men come into line, a very quick flash, the wonderful news that Derek Bell is the 1985 World Sports Car Champion after today's race at Fuji in Japan, and it's soon to be go. Badly at the start. He got the car right onto the grass with the left-hand wheels, but as you can see, it's Senna leading the two Williams Hondas together up into the right-hander at Druids.
Somebody off on the outside at Druids, one of the Williamses, he's recovered. Mansell was the cause of Prost's problem at the start, and Prost is now behind his two Ferrari rivals. So, Alain Prost is currently behind Alboreto, which means that we already have a race on our hands, and Prost has got a more difficult afternoon than he would initially have expected. He was balked by Mansell's rather tardy getaway at the start.
Senna, Rosberg, Piquet, Mansell, De Angelis and Mark Surer. There is Alain Prost. As James said, he's very badly boxed in. In fact, he had been passed by Martin Brundle, who started 16th on the grid. And we really have got a race now because Michele Alboreto will know that he is ahead of Prost. And Prost has got to finish 2 points ahead of Alboreto in order to win the championship. But this is the Grand Prix of Europe, and it is Senna leading, with Rosberg in second place, with Nelson Piquet striking sparks third. Mansell is fourth, De Angelis is fifth, Surer is sixth, Warwick is seventh, Johansson is 8th, Alboreto is 9th, the two Ligiers are 10th and 11th, and in 13th place behind Martin Brundle it is Alain Prost.
And now action replay of Nigel Mansell running wide at Druids. He's had rather a messy first lap. He made a complete bog of his start, recovered from that, and now we're back live, and then he went off at Druids. However, all is well with Mansell, and here is Rosberg challenging for the lead. End of the back straight into Hawthorns. And Piquet, after a relatively slow first lap, has obviously got those Pirelli tyres well warmed up. He's going very well indeed in third place. He's closed up that gap. Mansell is closing the gap and catching the leading pair. De Angelis goes through, and there's Mark Surer behind him. And then the two Ferraris. With Prost, you see some 5 cars behind the Ferraris,
which are 7th and 8th. Senna leads, Rosberg second. This is the end of lap 2 in this 75-lap race. Rosberg is right up with, and now Piquet is catching both of them. Nigel Mansell is making up ground in 4th place. De Angelis is still 5th. Surer is still 6th. Druids, Senna, Rosberg, Piquet, Mansell, De Angelis, Surer.
Yes, Piquet is showing tremendous form. Now, Piquet was quickest in the warm-up this morning, which is usually significant, but there's Derek Warwick in the pits already, so that looks pretty sad. It looks like some mechanical problem. Yes, they're undressing the back of the car, so what a shame. And here is Rosberg having another look, but going back to the subject of Piquet, we weren't quite sure how genuine the time was, because he did change cars during the warm-up. We weren't sure that it was his race car or a spare that he'd done it in. However, he looks to be showing the form. Senna is not going as quickly as we expected at the front, which has allowed both Mansell, you see there, to catch up, and Piquet, of course, in front of Mansell.
let's watch Alain Prost and this replay at the start. There he is, he's going onto the grass to avoid the car that was slow getting away in front of him, and as he gets back onto the track, you can see the other car streaming past him, and Alain Prost has got a major problem on his hands, getting up with and then past those slower men, which include one of the arrows, and there is Alboreto in the process of passing him on the inside at Paddock Bend, with Martin Brundle coming up fast. And incidentally, in the second Tyrrell today, it's Ivan Capelli, the Italian. Senna leads. It's still Rosberg second, but you can see for yourselves that Piquet is now carrying the Finnish driver in the Williams Honda, and Nigel Mansell is holding a watching brief in fourth position on this, the fourth lap, Dingle Dell. JPS Lotus, Williams Honda, Brabham BMW, Williams Honda, first, second, third, fourth. Quite a gap now between the fourth man, Nigel Mansell, both the Williams Hondas in the first four places, down into Clark Curve and to clear ways to come through and complete lap 4. And Warwick's problem was ignition. Derek Warwick in the Renault, ignition problems. De Angelis is still 5th, Sura is still 6th as we watch the first 4 coming up into Druids. And Ayrton Senna, as ever, having a very, very cool race, and Alain Prost at the present moment is in 9th position. There he is, Alain Prost in 9th position with Philippe Streff in the Ligier right behind him. Now there's the Frenchman. He's not in the World Championship points, but he's got to score. And that is Pierluigi Martini running true to form out of the race in the very early stages, having gone off.
Yes, well, that will be very popular with the other drivers, because the mobile chicane, which he normally is, has been therefore removed from the race, and I don't think anybody will be sorry to see his disappearance. So Prost has in fact fought his way back through the group that he was stuck in way down in some 14th or 15th place, and he's now got a clear run at Michele Alboreto, who's currently running in 8th. Tambe's car, see the green light, we see he's got a clear run up the inside, and this is a tremendous shot, breaking into Paddock Bend. See the car in front of him getting on the grass, throwing up the dust. There we are, accelerating up the hill to Druids, hard on the brakes, going down to the box, see the flames. And that's Riccardo Patrese, in fact, in front, in the Alfa, in front. Now back live, here is the leading group, and we've got a real battle on our hands. 4 cars, there's no doubt that Senna is not quite as quick as his pursuers, but of course he's quick enough that they can't get round him.
And we're on lap 6. Senna's got the racing line, and even on a comparatively wide track like Brands, if you stick to it, and you've got a car as quick as his, that handles as well as it does, this Gérard Ducarou's JPS Lotus, and you've got a head as cool as Ayrton Senna, you're going to keep in front. Nigel Mansell there in 4th position, and Alain Prost still in that 9th place as they go across the line to complete the 6th lap. Now, Ayrton Senna is on 3 C compound tyres and 1 B. Now, that is very interesting, because the C compound Goodyear tyre, as the lead changes momentarily, and off spins Rosberg, and into him goes Nelson Piquet. On this, the 7th lap, Rosberg trying to take Senna, goes off. Piquet has stalled. Will he be able to restart his car? And we've now got a new 3rd place man, because Mansell is up there.
Yes, what a shame that was. Poor Nelson Piquet couldn't avoid Rosberg, and his front wing has been knocked off the car, so even if he could restart, he wouldn't be in very competitive shape, and that is a great shame. And so we see Rosberg coming right down the inside, very tight. Senna and he tries to avoid Senna. Senna shuts the door on him, and I think Senna was quite justified. Oh, and Piquet's done a front wheel anyway, so we can see that. We couldn't see that from the other shot. So, but Rosberg seems to be rejoining, and without any damage. And so there is Senna, and that will be Mansell in pursuit now.
And Senna is 1 3/4 seconds now ahead.
I saw Rosberg going slowly then. I think he's got a punctured tyre. His left rear apparently is damaged.
Now, here is the sensation that Stefan Johansson is up into second place. Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari is the next car you will see as into the pits comes Keke Rosberg. This is a sensationally exciting Grand Prix of Europe as Keke Rosberg on lap 8, having made contact with Nelson Piquet, who is out of the race, stops at the pits for a new left rear. Are they going to change the right as well? They're taking a long time, an unconscionably long time to get that left rear on and the wheel nut done up. And it's to me as though there's a problem at the front of the car, but away he goes after a very long pit stop by today's standards, because in practicing they were doing it in just over 8 seconds this morning, and Rosberg is right down the field. Now, on lap 8, it is still Senna in the lead, and behind him is Stefan Johansson.
And in fact, Rosberg has lost pretty much exactly a lap. That's him on a cold tyre in front of the leaders, Senna and Nigel Mansell in second place.
Well, look at this, a terrific scrap for the lead, and there's a change because the Williams has gone past Ayrton Senna, who has therefore lost the lead, and he has lost it to Nigel Mansell.
Yes, Mansell took advantage of his teammate, Keke Rosberg, holding up Ayrton Senna. He was slow because of the cold tyres. He's letting them both go now. Maybe he'll cut. Yes, Rosberg's angry with Senna. There's no doubt about that. I think Rosberg feels that Senna shut the door on him pretty fiercely in that incident just a couple of laps ago, and so he's going to hold Senna up. Now, the feelings run quite high amongst the drivers in a situation like this, and I should think that Senna and Rosberg are both very angry with each other, so let's just watch and see if we get any fireworks from them. Meanwhile, behind, Alain Prost has caught Michele Alboreto, so the battle for the championship is well and truly joined. They're nose to tail.
And here are the places. You look at the new leader, Nigel Mansell. There is Keke Rosberg, who, don't forget, is a lap behind. Then in second place it is Ayrton Senna. Elio De Angelis is third, with Stefan Johansson fourth, Sura fifth and Alboreto sixth. So both the Ferraris are in the first 6 and ahead of Alain Prost there, who is seventh and out of the points.
Right, here we see it again now. Rosberg was slow out of bottom bend. He was holding Senna up. Senna failed to shut the door, a mistake that I think he might regret, because if he'd gone straight to the left-hand side of the track, he may have just been able to keep Mansell out. Now, the irony of the situation is that Rosberg hasn't really been given to helping Nigel Mansell a lot, but right now I'm sure he's helping him as hard as he can, because he's at the moment his feelings for Senna run rather higher than they do for Mansell, so he's probably deliberately holding Senna up to give Mansell a big lead and generally annoy Senna. And Senna's dropped back. Senna has dropped back considerably from Keke Rosberg there.
And that's giving De Angelis, Johansson and Sura the chance to close up. There is Senna, and you just saw the flash of the gold and black JPS Lotus and the white of Elio De Angelis' helmet. Now there is Senna in second place. We'll soon see De Angelis. There is Elio De Angelis, who is catching his teammate, and I wonder what the problem is with Senna's car. But rest assured that we already, with Alain Prost being fastest on the circuit in 1 minute 13.8, which is actually outside Pironi's lap record from 1980, have got a charging Frenchman, and there he is, the race order on lap 11. In the lead is Nigel Mansell. In second position, it's Ayrton Senna. Third is Elio De Angelis. Fourth is Stefan Johansson. In fifth place, it is Marc Surer. In sixth place, it is Alain Prost. And Prost there is in the points. Now he's got to catch Marc Surer in the blue and white Brabham BMW in front of him in his quest for more points.
Well, after his little hiccup at the start, things look to be going very steadily for Alain Prost. He's got Marc Surer in front of him. He won't be easy for Prost to pass because that BMW engine in the Brabham, combined with its very aerodynamic shape, make it very quick in a straight line and therefore difficult to pass. But Prost won't be in a big hurry. He knows there's a long way to go. He's already in sixth place. He only needs one more point, so long as Alboreto doesn't score. They saw Johansson going through ahead of the pair, so the three of them are together.
Martin Brundle is in 9th position. John Watson is in 19th place. And Martin Brundle is now pushing Michele Alboreto, who is 8th. As you look at Alain Prost in that points position, still in 6th place. And ahead of him, it is still British enthusiasts here are literally on their seats. I can see a crowded grandstand watching Nigel Mansell coming through to complete another lap in the lead. Rosberg, who you see behind him, is in front of him, I'm sorry, there is Mansell, is actually nearly a full lap behind the race leader, Nigel Mansell, in view of the fact that Rosberg, had to come into the pits and change that left rear after hitting Nelson Piquet, who's out of the race. And it's lap 13 now. Mansell leads. And Alboreto's into the pits. Michele Alboreto coming into the pits. This could be the end of Alboreto's World Championship chances unless the Ferrari mechanics have a really rapid tyre change on lap 13. Well, it's a jolly sight better than Rosberg's. It's nearly 10 seconds faster than Rosberg's. Just under 11 seconds to change all 4 tyres and wheels. And Alio goes past him, who was in 20th place. There's Alio. His car running much better with its Hart turbocharged engine now that they've got the right fuel mixture for it. And there go Rosberg and Mansell through. Mansell leading, and you can see the gap now. 4 seconds between Mansell and Senna. Then the second JPS Lotus of Elio De Angelis is third. The Ferrari of Johansson fourth. Surer Brabham BMW fifth. And Prost in the points sixth.
I can't quite work out what's going on in Senna's car because he dropped back quite sharply from Nigel Mansell when Mansell got past courtesy of teammate Keke Rosberg, but he's now catching again. So I initially thought that maybe his tyres were giving him some trouble. He got them a little bit hot in the early laps, but he seems to have steadied down and is actually catching them.
Still 61 laps to go for this man, the race leader, Nigel Mansell. The highest he has ever finished in a Grand-Pri was in Belgium, where he finished second, and he's a changed man since he joined the Williams Honda team. He's totally relaxed. He's got his wife and family over here from the Isle of Man, where he lives. You heard what he had to say to Barry Gill, and you can see now that Prost is catching Stefan Johansson. And Stefan Johansson is in fourth place behind De Angelis, Senna and Mansell.
Yes, Prost is slowly, gently picking up places now. Fastest lap so far by Keke Rosberg, but I'm sure they'll get quicker. But Rosberg is certainly going very quickly out in the front, albeit just under a lap down. And Prost having a look down the inside of Paddock Bend, but remember, he will be taking absolutely no risks, or certainly that's what his strategy will be. He'll be trying to take no risks, work his way. His right front tyre looked a little bit marked, and that must be Alboreto. That's Alboreto, I would guess, with, yep, and that's engine gone and the whole thing on fire. That's very spectacular. That will be the turbo, the oil in the turbo taking off, and if I was Michele, I'd park that and get out of it rather quickly. But find a marshal's post, because, as usual, the British marshals, the best in the world, will be onto it very quickly. I don't think Michele realises he's on fire.
suddenly realise that he is out of the World Championship. No points again. This is the 5th retirement, or about to be, for Michele Alboreto. And this is going to be very nasty unless they get onto him very quickly in the pits, because that car is going to go up very soon, and there's about 40 gallons of petrol on it, and he's now cruising through the pit lane, as you can well see, pointing to the rear of the car and the flames as if everybody didn't know. And if I was in the pit lane, I would be hightailing it for the end as fast as my legs would carry me. But Michele Alboreto will be bitterly disappointed and frustrated. He's been pretty fed up with the Ferrari team. He's getting out of the car now. He's going to jump to safety. But there's some amazingly relaxed people in that pit lane. Let's look at the fire extinguishers getting into action. And that's it. That's it. Alboreto is out of the race. Alboreto is out of the World Championship. If Alain Prost finishes 5th or higher, he is going to be the World Champion of 1985. And here he is in 6th position. He needs to get past Johansson. And that's assuming that everybody else finishes, of course, that's in front of him. But it looks to me as though with the fabled McLaren reliability and Prost's tactical and driving brilliance, we are already looking at the 1985 World Champion. And behind Prost is Jacques Laffite in the Ligier, who is in 7th position. The absolutely rejuvenated Ligiers in the last few races. And Johnny Jacques Laffite, the oldest man in the race, 41 years old, and giving Prost 11 years, is in 7th place and certainly holding the McLaren and the Ferrari. 5th, 6th Prost, number 2. 7th, Jacques Laffite, rounding Druids Hill Bend.
Yes, Prost is definitely being held up by Johansson, but I don't think he'll mind about that too much. He will, as you say, he'll be picking his moment to pass very carefully, and Laffite is now threatening him from behind, which is something he doesn't need. He won't be pleased about that. You sometimes get little vortices of vapour as the wings work so effectively on the air. You can see little plumes coming off, rather like you can on a damp day with big aircraft landing. Sterling's, and this is a bit of an uncomfortable situation for Prost. He doesn't mind challenging car, but to be part of a sandwich when defensive driving is all he wants is not ideal.
I've just seen the McLaren team give Prost a signal, a major signal. I can't see it because the wording was on the other side, but I suspect that it said elbow out, Alboreto out, and that will be a song of words of joy to Alain Prost. Although he wishes his Italian rival no ill, he certainly wouldn't want him to finish the race in the first 6. He knows he's not going to, but he's only just in the points himself. He may not be very much longer if Jacques Laffite goes on the way he is doing, because now the Pirelli tyres on Laffite's Ligier, which take a long time to warm up, are good and warm, and we know that Laffite is on a harder tyre compound in his Pirellis than Prost is on his Goodyears.
I've just had a look. Johansson's left rear doesn't look very healthy. I think Johansson is a bit grained up. You look at his left rear tyre and you'll see that half of the tread is a bit marked. That's graining, and that means it won't be producing the grip that he would like, which is why Laffite has been able to catch. And of course, now there you see a shot of the left rear tyre. That is, believe me, a rear tyre in less than perfect condition.
Amazingly, we still do not have a new lap record. 1980, Didier Pironi created a lap record in 1 minute 12.4, 130 miles an hour. And the fastest lap we've had so far is Keke Rosberg on lap 10, 1 minute 13 seconds. And it's Stefan Johansson, 5th. Prost there, 6th, and Laffite, 7th. What a race for the Britons as Nigel Mansell, Laffite goes through, and he has displaced Prost. Prost is now out of the points in this crucial race to him, with Jacques Laffite moving up to 6th place, with Johansson Johansen fifth, Sura fourth, De Angelis third, Senna second. Nigel Mansell is in the lead, the leading British driver. Martin Brundle is in 8th position, and John Watson is 16th.
Yes, I don't think Prost will be too concerned about being displaced by Jacques Lafitte, who has every reason to charge, and Prost has every reason not to. In fact, he will enjoy Lafitte dealing with Stefan Johansson, as he does. And so Lafitte moves up 2 places in less than a lap and is really on the charge. I think probably that Prost will have seen that Johansson is in tyre trouble and will be happy to wait and let Johansson make what would appear to me to be a relatively inevitable pit stop.
Well, Lafitte is driving magnificently. Enormous pleasure, of course, for Gérard Larousse and Michel Tétu, the men who left Renault in pretty unpleasant circumstances for them at the end of last year and went to Ligier, and now they've had the bitter satisfaction of seeing Renault pull out of racing, while the Ligiers that they have inspired this season have got better and better, faster and faster, and further up the places, with Streff starting this race in 5th position on the grid, and now Jacques Lafitte is up to that 5th position with Sura, De Angelis, Senna and Mansell in front of him, and as you see, Nigel Mansell is nearly 10 seconds ahead of Senna, who is 3 seconds ahead of De Angelis, who's got Sura right behind him, and then Johansson and Lafitte are only about 6 seconds behind Sura, with, of course, Lafitte now up to 5th place, and there he is.
Yes, Lafitte going very well, and it's good to see that there's Sierra having a look at De Angelis, and it is good to see that the Pirelli-tyred cars are very competitive here, and as Sierra challenging down the back straight, he's got the inside line, and he makes it. Sierra late on the brakes, moves up into 3rd place. So Marc Sierra taking up the cudgels very well for his unfortunate teammate Nelson Piquet, who of course was put out with by the incident that was really nothing to do with him between Rosberg and Senna. So Nigel Mansell driving very calmly, very sensibly. The Williams has been good all weekend. He qualified well, and he now has something around an 11-second lead. So Mansell in a very commanding position at the moment.
And he's just lapped the young 22-year-old Ivan Capelli in his first Grand Prix, Capelli. So there is Mansell, race leader on lap 22, out of 75. Now the next British driver is Martin Brundle, who is in 8th position, and Sura, while I talk to you, has passed Elio De Angelis into 4th position. Brundle then in 8th place. John Watson is plugging along well in his return to Grand Prix racing. He is in 16th place.
So Lafitte is the quickest man on the circuit at the moment, going very well indeed. But British eyes or British fans must all be focused on Nigel Mansell. He's never yet won a Grand Prix, and how he and all his fans would just love to do it on home ground and break his duck here at Bрэnds-Hэтch.
There he goes, the man from Port Erin. This is his 72nd Grand Prix. 1 second place, 5 third places, 3 fourth places, 1 pole position, 51 points, 7 times a car champion. Then up the racing ladder through Formula 3, Formula 2 driving the Ralt Honda, then into Formula 1 for 4 years under the leadership of Colin Chapman with the JPS Lotus team, this year to the Williams Honda team, and as I said earlier on, he is like a new man, and look at him go.
And Marc Sierra, having disposed of De Angelis, has pulled out, pulled away from him very quickly and is catching Ayrton Senna fast.
This is incredible, because Marc Sierra, who is regarded as the steady, quiet man of Grand Prix racing, which he is a very underestimated man. He started his Grand Prix racing career with ATS Ensign, Theodore, then said he was in the Arrows team. Now we're looking at Nigel Mansell, and there's Philippe Alliot, who is going well. The Frenchman, he's in 18th position, but usually in the past he's been out of the race long before this. We're now on lap 24 with 51 laps to go, including this one, as we look at Nigel Mansell, who took the lead on lap 9. There is Ayrton Senna still in that second position, but with Mark Surer gaining on him fast. You'll see two very different looking motor cars, and there is Surer. Ayrton Senna, twice a Grand-Prix winner this year, third in the championship, 1 point ahead of his teammate Elio De Angelis, who is in 4th place. Both the JPS Lotus cars are in the top point-scoring 6 positions. And Jacques Lafitte now has passed Elio De Angelis. There's the second, Senna, third, Surer. Jacques Lafitte is up to 4th place, De Angelis is down to 5th.
Well, what was looking quite a comfortable situation for Nigel Mansell is now being made to look a bit uncomfortable by Jacques Lafitte, who's driving an absolutely storming race coming through, and the Pirelli tires really seem to be working, because there is Mark Surer, who's now hounding Ayrton Senna, and behind him is Lafitte catching the pair of them. And here is Lafitte, and we'll just keep an eye on that gap, but I don't think it's going to take him long to catch him.
And the gap between Nigel Mansell and Senna is now 12 seconds. There is Lafitte in 4th place, and there are Surer and Senna, and that is Lafitte. So we've got the first, the second, third and fourth virtually in the same shot on the circuit on lap 25. This is the 1/3 distance, and it's Senna second, Surer third, that man, Jacques Lafitte, 4th.
Yes, but I'm looking at Lafitte's tyres, and they don't look that well to me. I think he might even have a blister on his right front. Just have a look at his tyres. The right front certainly seems to be marked up a bit. As usual, the teams, of course, running the softest compounds that they dare, because the softer the rubber, the quicker it goes, until, of course, you overheat it.
That's Christian Danner, who is last in the race at the moment in the red and white car number 30, the Zach Speed. And what has happened to Alain Prost, you may be asking? The answer is that he's still out of the points. He is in 7th place only, 13 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, who is in 8th position. We're on lap 26 now. It's a 75-lap race. John Watson is starting to charge. He has passed Patrick Tambay, who is 16th. The race order on lap 26. Nigel Mansell leads. Ayrton Senna second, in 12 seconds behind him. Mark Surer is catching Senna. There is the second place man. 4th is Jacques Lafitte. 5th is Elio De Angelis, as you look at Senna and Surer, with Lafitte catching both of them fast. 5th is De Angelis, 6th is Johansson, 7th is Prost, 8th is Brundle, 9th is Stret, 10th is Boutsen, 11th is Cheever, 12th is Patrese, and Watson is now 16th. What a battle for second position. Ayrton Senna, Mark Surer. Mark Surer, who comes from near Bâle, 34 years old. And he's going to take that second place, I do believe, and he could do it as they come into the top straight on the approach to Paddock Bend, because the power of the BMW engine is phenomenal. Ayrton Senna in the past has been accused of turning up the boost in moments of stress. He has always vehemently denied it, and the subsequent race examination has proved him right. And now Jacques Lafitte is as close to Surer in 4th position as Surer is to Lafitte in 3rd place, as to Senna in 3rd place. And as I say that, Surer accelerates hard, pulls away from Lafitte, gains on Senna, and we now almost have a new second place man, but Senna's got the line for Hawthorns, and coming out of Westfield into Westfield.
That must have been a very brave bit of braking by Ayrton Senna, because he left it very late indeed. He won won the chicken match with Sierra, and really Sierra was in the ideal position and Senna was in the less than ideal position on the outside. So you've obviously got to be a pretty brave breaker to get past Ayrton on the brakes.
And they're now up with Alio in the Ram Hart, who is in 18th position. Into paddock, Senna goes through on the inside, and Alio is still ahead of Sierra and, of course, Lafitte. And don't forget that Nigel Mansell is still there in front, and he's increasing his lead over this battle. I have said many times in the past, but it bears repeating, that if you've got a clear circuit, as Nigel Mansell has, and there is a battle going on behind you between 2 or 3 men, as Senna, Sierra and Lafitte are having, it means that those men will slow themselves up because each is denying the other the best line. Now Sierra in 3rd position is past Alio, and that problem faces Jacques Lafitte in the blue Ligier, who dodges out and smoothly passes the Ram Hart. Great friend of Alain Prost, both of them very, very keen golfers and love nothing more when the Grand-Pri scene isn't active than to get away and have a round of golf together. There's Lafitte. And I think it's just a matter of time before Marc Sierra gets the opportunity to, having planned his attack for at least a lap, close up on Senna and then get past him. But Jacques Lafitte's going to make it difficult for him. Behind Lafitte, it's still De Angelis 5th, Johansson 6th. Prost is still out of the points, but I would be surprised if all the 6 men in the leading point-scoring positions now, Mansell, Senna, Sura, Lafitte, De Angelis and Johansson, finish, in which case Prost, who's very likely to, should pick up at least 1 point, but that's not enough to win the championship. He has to increase his championship lead over Alboreto by at least another 2 points, which means 5th or higher is essential for Alain Prost. There's still a long way to go. 45 laps at the end of this one to go.
Yes, Mansell leading by some 14 seconds. I think he's probably just watching 2nd place, not now trying to extend the lead dramatically. He is in fact lapped John Watson, and sadly one must say it's been a very disappointing performance by Watson in his comeback. Of course, not easy to step straight into a Formula 1 car and be expected to deliver after a 2-year gap, but he did have plenty of testing, and really to have qualified 21st and to be lapped must sadly spell the end of Watson's Grand Prix career.
I'll tell you something that could be very significant as we look at Alain Prost chasing Stefan Johansson. Prost 7th, Johansson 6th. That significant thing is that Alain Prost has made a very cautious tyre choice. He's got 2 B compound tyres on the left side of his car, 2 C's on the right, compared with Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda, who's got 3 C's and a B. So Mansell has taken a bit of a risk on tyres compared with Prost. Frank Williams told me just before this race began that they were definitely coming in to change tyres, they being Rosberg and Mansell. Rosberg, of course, is long out of the race. Mansell is leading it, but I suspect that Alain Prost is far less likely to have to stop than Nigel Mansell is. Time will prove whether I'm right or wrong. Oh, look at this for second still. Ayrton Senna just coolly holding on ahead of Marc Sierra 3rd, Jacques Lafitte with them in 4th place. They are being led by Nigel Mansell, who is now nearly 13 seconds ahead on lap 31. Sierra is close enough now to attack.
Yes, absolutely, Murray. Sierra is going to have a look. But he was a little bit too close through the left-hander, and I think that stopped him getting a proper run. But he's certainly starting to attack. Incidentally, Rosberg, who, remember when it had got that flat rear tyre from his incident with when challenging for the lead at the beginning of the race, is going very well, coming back to the field. He's up to 11th place and looks very much, if he gets a trouble-free run, as if he'll be in the points by the end of the race.
4 different cars in the first 4 places, and the tyre honours just about evenly shared. Mansell, Williams, Honda; Senna, JPS, Lotus; Sura, Brabham, BMW; Lafitte, Ligier; and Sura and Lafitte are on Pirelli. Mansell and Senna are on Goodyear. There is Sura. De Angelis, both the JPS Lotuses still in the first 6, and Senna has now caught Patrick Tambay, who is in 17th place.
And this could provide an opportunity for Mark Scherer to get a run at him. And not this time. So Scherer must be getting a little bit frustrated, but the Lotus is certainly pretty quick down the straight. And we've already seen just how late Senna is prepared to brake. And with his skills, why not, when defending his position. Just sitting behind him, looking to pick up the pieces. I think he'll probably prefer to let Scherer make the move first and then find his own way around and deal with Scherer later.
John Watson, meantime, is continuing his slow progress as we look at race leader Nigel Mansell on lap 33 out of 75, having passed Eddie Cheever and Riccardo Patrese's Alfa Romeos. Watson is now in 14th position with more than half the race still to go. He's got plenty of time to play himself in. And if this isn't keeping you on the edge of your seats, and you're wondering what about the pictures from Patrick Tambay's Renault in the race, I'm afraid we've got bad news for you there. I can tell you that there's flies on the lens. Well, there it is. That is Patrick Tambay's car, and you can see that we've got a rather muddy picture, although I think it's still highly dramatic. And believe it or not, there is actually a lens cleaning fluid which can be squirted onto the lens under the control of a man in the helicopter who's flying over the circuit. Such is modern technology. There's Mansell, race leader. Another lap being completed.
Man in the helicopter doesn't seem to be doing a very good job. But it is very difficult. Of course, being in the middle of the field, you get a lot of oil thrown out by the cars in front and that sort of thing, and dust and mess, and the oil makes it all stick. And of course, this happens to a driver's visor during the race. Now, and Prost still chasing Johansson, hounding him, waiting for a mistake, but Johansson is not giving him that opportunity, and of course he is now carrying the honour of Ferrari, as it were, squarely on his own shoulders. It's up to him, I'm sure, and he realises it, to keep Prost at bay, and in fact he's doing a tremendous job. Stefan Johansson has really surprised a lot of people by his good performances since he's joined Ferrari. He's proved that he is the driver we all hoped he was. He's a charming man, and he is doing a very excellent job. Going back to the problem that drivers have with their visors, we saw what it was like looking through that camera lens, and some drivers carry tear-offs. They have little thin celluloid strips that fit over the main visor, and they can just pull them off when they get dirty. When I used to drive, did a different system. I just used to carry a dry cloth stuck down between my legs and my crutch, which can't go anywhere. Just put a hand down, take it out, and I would just polish my visor as I went along.
Senna gets past Berger. Senna's second. There's Sura in third position ahead of Jacques Lafitte fourth. And we've got just as good a scrap for fifth position, because Elio De Angelis in fifth place is being caught by Stefan Johansson and Prost. And we're expecting Nigel Mansell to come in and make a tyre change very shortly. I've been looking down at the pits, the Williams pit, and I can see the mechanics standing there. Well, there they are, with the tyres all ready, with the jacks all ready. Those booms sticking out carry the pneumatic hammer airlines, and it's going to be all action for that man, Nigel Mansell. 12, nearly 13 seconds, and Sura is second. Mark Scherer in the Brabham BMW has taken Ayrton Senna and second position, and Jacques Lafitte looks as though he's going to go for third place.
Well, this could definitely take away the comfortable afternoon that Nigel Mansell's been having so far, because I anticipate that Sierra is going to up the pace a bit. And also, here we see the manoeuvre again, just where he's been trying all along. He got alongside him, and this time, big sparks from bottoming on the bump there, and Sierra goes through, and Lafitte will now be desperately trying to follow him, because he won't want Sierra to get away too far, as Senna is the slow one of the three.
And we're very nearly on the half-distance lap. By the way, Teo Fabi and Philippe Alliot seem to be out of the race, and on lap 36 out of 75, as you look at the new second-place man, Marc Surer in the Brabham BMW. Nigel Mansell is over 13.5 seconds ahead of him. That means to say, as Lafitte goes through into third position, Jacques Lafitte is third. Down to fourth goes Ayrton Senna. Now, can the Frenchman in the blue Ligier, Jacques Lafitte, get to grips with Marc Surer? We could have another Pirelli victory, because Nelson Piquet has already won one race for Pirelli in France this year, and now we've got Mansell leading, Senna second, Surer second, Senna in third position. Jacques Lafitte is ahead now and in third place, my apologies. And there is the third and fourth scene with Jacques Lafitte.
Mansell now has a 13.5-second lead over second-place man Marc Surer, but things could well change. So we'll be watching that gap. And Lafitte also chasing hard, the two Pirelli-shod cars chasing Mansell in his Goodyear-shod car, and we are expecting Mansell into the pits for a tyre change, which is interesting because Williams felt that they would need to make a tyre change, whereas most of the teams were hoping not to. And I suspect that they'll bring Rosberg in first, because Mansell leading the race, they will want to look at Rosberg's tyres to see whether they can leave Mansell out there. So they'll use Keke Rosberg as the guinea pig, I expect.
Now, look at Alain Prost. There's John Watson. John Watson coming up through the field and being lapped by Marc Surer. That's the first sight of the Irishman, Northern Irishman, John Watson. He's going well, he's in 14th position. We are on lap 38. It's Mansell still leading. 13.5 seconds ahead of Marc Surer. Jacques Lafitte in third position. Ayrton Senna in fourth place. Fifth is Elio De Angelis. Sixth is Johansson. And Alain Prost is still out of the points. And that time of 1 minute 12.942 is still half a second outside the 5-year-old lap record, which, if my memory serves me correctly, is now by far the oldest lap record of the World Championship Grand-Prix circuits, held by Didier Pironi. There is Lafitte. This is Surer. He is second. A race of excellent reliability. We are now at half distance. The Shell Oil's Grand Prix of Europe has run half its distance in a race which has not for one split second lacked dramatic interest. And there's one of the men of the race, Marc Surer. The highest that Surer has ever finished is in fourth position. He's much better than that now. He's had 2 fourth places in his life, and Prost in the pits. Absolutely critical that they give him a fast pit stop, but it's not a quick one. That's a very slow pit stop. Nearly 17 seconds, and he's lost a lot of places. He's got a lot to do now.
Yes, setback for Prost there, and they had a lot of trouble with the right front wheel there, and I would imagine that they would certainly have given him a C left front, maybe a C left rear as well this time. The track softens, the fuel load is down, and I have a feeling they might might have gambled and given him a softer left side for a bit more grip. So we'll have a look when he comes round to complete his lap as to how many places he's lost and where he is on the track, and let you know.
Well, a frenzied message from Mike Doodson, my lap scorer, to say that he's only lost one place, and that was to Martin Brundle, who is now in 7th place and only just out of the World Championship points. So it's a British driver leading, Nigel Mansell. It's a British driver just out of the points, Martin Brundle, and it's Britisher John Watson moving up through the field from his lowly start in 21st position, and he's now 14th. And Prost is really going to have to work very, very hard indeed. This is not at all the race we expected to see. We expected to see, and that's the race leader, Nigel Mansell, on his 40th lap. We expected to see Prost calmly work his way through the field with that famed increase in relative speed in the race compared with qualifying in relation to other cars, but he didn't do so. That bad start delayed him, then he had to fight his way up, then he was passed by other cars. It's apparent to me that the McLaren is not at the top of its considerable form, and Prost is having to work harder than usual.
There's the latest pit. They are obviously ready for a tyre change. We'll see if it's Senna or D'Angelo. So it looks now as if most teams are going to be changing tyres, in which case Prost's early stop, they had hoped incidentally to go without a stop, but Prost's early stop will stand him in good stead. So back with Nigel Mansell, who we expect to stop, but not until they've had a check out on Rosberg's tyres. They can learn a lot from, obviously, from looking at the teammates' tyres.
Both the Williams drivers are in touch with their pits through radio. They can talk. They can't exactly have a conversation. You're rather busy in the cockpit, but they can certainly pass monosyllabic statements like coming in, tyres, or misfire, or something like that. And the pits can tell them, provided they do it at the right time, what their situation is. There's black smoke coming from the back of Mark Seurer's BMW-powered Brabham. That is not... And now we do have a... No, I was going to say lap record. That's 0.2 of a second outside the lap record. But the interesting point is that it is Alain Prost who's set up that fastest lap so far. 129.7 miles an hour. Prost is the fastest man on the course, and he is, of course, on new tyres. And Johansson and De Angelis have changed places. Stefan Johansson has now moved up a place, and the position on lap 42 is Nigel Mansell is in the lead, Mark Seurer is second. In third position it is Jacques Lafitte. In fourth place it is Ayrton Senna. In fifth place now it is Stefan Johansson. Stefan Johansson has moved up, and in sixth position it is Elio De Angelis, with Alain Prost in eighth position. Prost is was still behind Brundle, because Martin Brundle in 7th place has brought the Tyrrell Renault into the pits for a tyre change, and it looks to me as though all is not well at the back. It's far more than a tyre change. The Renault technicians in the yellow jackets looking inquiringly down at the engine, and I fear that we are seeing a Martin Brundle who is about to finish an excellent drive in the Grand-Pri of Europe. Senna chasing. There is Jacques Lafitte, third. Ayrton Senna in fourth position. We know that one of the JPS cars is coming in for a pit stop very shortly. Ayrton Senna rounding the right-hander at Dingledale Corner, dropping down into Dingledale Corner now into Sterling's the left-hander. 1 minute 12.2, new lap record. Heaven knows it's taken long enough to get there, but 1 minute 12.237 is a new lap record, Alain Prost.
Yes, and Martin Brundle is sadly out of the race after a very good drive. He must be well encouraged with that. Meantime, Prost is really shifting it now. I think his policy, his defensive policy, has probably had to go out of the window. He's got fresh tyres and probably a softer compound on the left side than he had before, and he's going a lot quicker than anybody else on the circuit. Mind you, he needs to, because he is some 30, nearly half a minute out of touch with the points people, so he'll need to really go for it, and as of course they're going to help him by pitting themselves.
And he comes up to one of the Alfa Romeos. We'll have a look in a minute. It's Patrese. No, it's Cheever, I'm sorry. It's Eddie Cheever, the American, being passed by Alain Prost. Well, Cheever was in 15th place. And Cheever has been into the pits. And we're on lap 44 now. Mansell, Sura, Lafitte, Senna, Johansson, De Angelis, 7th. Alain Prost that you're looking at, still out of the points, still needs 2 points at least to clinch the World Championship from his rival Michele Alboreto, who retired in the pit lane in flames a long time ago. Keke Rosberg out of the race, Martini out of the race, Piquet out of the race after hitting Rosberg, now Martin Brundle out of the race. With Mansell leading, Sura second, Lafitte third, Senna fourth, Johansson fifth, De Angelis sixth, Prost that you're looking at 7th. Rosberg is up to 8th position and only 8 seconds behind Prost and catching him. Philippe Streff is 9th and has been lapped. Boutsen is in 10th position. 11th is Patrese. In 12th position now is John Watson, who is continuing to pick up places, partly because people have dropped out, notably Martin Brundle, but nevertheless still well in the running.
And Prost going quicker and quicker. He's just done another lap, under 12 seconds, 1:11.8. And there it is. So Alain Prost has thrown, and quite rightly, his defensive policy out of the window, and he now looks to be giving it absolutely everything. He wasn't too happy with the car through practice. He was complaining of a lack of grip with the car in general, which is not a problem that normally afflicts McLaren. It's usually the others complaining of not as much grip as a McLaren. But it seems to be gripping now.
And I'm wondering what's happening about these alleged Williams pit stops, because the mechanics are now looking incredibly relaxed. They're even sitting on the tyres. So I can give you the answer to that, such is our communication system, and that is that a board has been held out to both Rosberg and Mansell saying tyres okay, question mark. Now you will remember that I told you that the two Williams drivers, Nigel Mansell, who is in the lead, and Rosberg, who is making rapid progress up through the field in 8th position, are in direct radio communication with their pits. So in answer to the board, they can say tyres okay or coming in, and it looks as though it's the latter answer at the moment. The 1B compound and 3C compound soft tyres of Goodyear's, of Nigel Mansell's car there, seem to be standing up well.
Yes, and particularly Mansell's lead, he seems to be holding Sura. I had thought that Sura would start to catch him, but in fact, if anything, I think it's the Pirelli-tired cars that seem to be in trouble. Lafitte has dropped back a bit after his charge. You remember we were looking at his tyres, and they did, and there is Father Mansell. Looks very happy indeed, and why shouldn't he be, with young Nigel out there doing a very competent job indeed. But I do think that if there's any doubt, the Williams team should call Keke in and use him, as I say, as a guinea pig, because they can measure the wear, they can see how well the time somebody's in.
It's Ivan Capelli has gone off the circuit in his first Grand Prix drive, And that turbo, you can just see flames starting to lick at the rear of the bodywork. That is where the turbo is, and the turbo is literally red hot, as is the exhaust pipe, and they need to get some fire extinguisher foam onto that part of the car very quickly. But Mansell now, and such is the increased stature of this man, that he's driving enormously coolly.
And you saw Capelli just sit on the tyres then, and I would strongly suspect, it being his first Grand Prix, that that was exhaustion that caused that crash. I would think that it's amazing how tiring these cars are to drive. He's not used, and Bрэnds-Hэтch is a particularly tough circuit physically, so I strongly suspect that he crashed through sheer exhaustion.
Capelli had never driven a Bрэnds-Hэтch and had never driven a turbocharged 850 horsepower Grand Prix car before Friday of last week. So, although he's crashed, he's done extremely well in practice. Lap 48 now, race leader Nigel Mansell. Is he going to come in, or is he not going to come in? He's certainly not going to come in this lap, and he's going through now to complete his 48th lap out of 75. I hardly dare say it, but his Williams Honda running like a train, and Mansell, who led 2 Grand Prix in the JPS Lotus team last year at Monaco and Dallas, went off at Monaco and was castigated by a lot of people for not being able to withstand the pressure. Although, to be more than fair to Nigel, we have to recall that the weather conditions last year at Monza in the rain were absolutely appalling. And he made that now famous remark of, I hit a bit of white and went off, which was a masterpiece of understatement. But now, Nigel Mansell on lap 49 has been in the lead since lap 9. He's led this race for 40 laps. He's never done that before. So, Mansell, highest place so far in Belgium this year. It's significant that it was this year in the Williams Honda. The battle for 3rd place between Lafitte, who's got it, and Senna there in the yellow helmet trying to catch him.
Yes, and we saw how quickly Lafitte was able to pull away from Senna earlier, and I suspect his tyres are not proving as durable as Ayrton Senna's. Meanwhile, Alain Prost's charge through the field is paying off. There is Prost, he's absolutely flying, and he is catching the 6th place man, Elio De Angelis fast. He's some 12 seconds behind him at the moment, or he was a lap ago. He may be closer by now, the way he's going at it. So Prost is charging hard to get into the points. Remember, 5th place is all he needs, 5th place for winning the World Championship, and Stefan Johansson is the current owner of 5th place, and Prost is some 14.5 seconds behind Johansson in 5th. He's only 9 seconds behind De Angelis now.
And there are Lafitte in 3rd place, chased by Senna in 4th. Lafitte in the Ligier on Pirellis, Senna in the Renault-powered JPS Lotus on Goodyear's. And now Prost has again broken the lap record by 0.3 of a second, 1:11.5, confirming the fact that he's the fastest man on the circuit. Mansell leads, Sura 2nd, Lafitte 3rd, Senna 4th, and there they are. Johansson 5th, De Angelis 6th, Prost still out of the points in 7th place, and we are on lap 51 out of 75. Rosberg is 8th, Streff is 9th, Boutsen is 10th, Patrese is 11th, Watson is 12th, and everybody up to Prost in 8th place has been lapped as Senna goes for the place, and he's got it. Senna moves past Lafitte up into 3rd position.
Well, I suppose Lafitte is trying to go the distance on the set of tyres he's got on, but I really would have expected him to have come in and changed some little while ago, as soon as Senna started to catch him again, and I think that Lafitte would appear to me anyway to be in tyre trouble.
Yes, that's not the mark of a driver who lacks stamina, because Jacques Lafitte at 41, thanks to his golfing activities and everything else, is in superb physical condition. He's a wiry, tough little Nigel man. He won't be flagging, and he's obviously got a handling problem from the way Senna caught and passed him to take that third position. Now Senna is some 8 seconds behind Mark Sura, who is second, who is now 16.4 seconds behind the race leader, Nigel Mansell. And still there is no sign of any untoward activity amongst the tyre squatting Williams mechanics. And Lafitte is in the pits. Jacques Lafitte is changing his Pirellis. Was in 4th position. That means to say that Prost is now in the points. This is significant. We only had to have one thing happen to the 6 drivers in front of Alain Prost in 7th place for the Frenchman to move into the World Championship points, and there he is. He is now in 6th position, 8 seconds behind Elio De Angelis, who is 5th. Johansson is 4th. Senna is 3rd. Sura is 2nd, and Mansell still leads. Well, one more place and one more point would clinch the World Championship for Prost.
Yes, I think barring mechanical problems and accidents, Prost is going to catch and pass De Angelis pretty easily. So he now, the World Championship really is his for the taking, barring fate getting in the way. Incidentally, Keke Rosberg, who I predicted earlier could well get up into the points, is up into 8th place and still progressing well.
23 laps to go, including the one that Prost is just finishing, so it's soon coming down to 22. He's not very far off lapping his teammate, John Watson, who has just gone through to start another lap. And the race leaders are on lap 53 now. The race settling down a little, but I wonder if Jacques Lafitte is going to be able to get out onto the circuit. Well, he's on the circuit, but he's going to be able to do anything on his new tyres, and of course he will have been given a much softer compound than the one he had before, which will mean more grip. He's got a super race rhythm going, and he could be making up places.
Yes, it'll be quite interesting to watch, because he's actually rejoined just behind Keke Rosberg, which has moved Rosberg up into 7th place, but Lafitte, of course, will be out there with the advantage of new tyres. Remember, when there's more rubber on the tyre, they grip better, and he's only about 4 or 5 seconds behind Rosberg, so once he gets those tyres warm, I would anticipate him to start attacking.
Alain Prost coming through to complete another lap to win his 53rd. Coming through to complete another lap, chasing Elio De Angelis, who's got John Watson ahead of him. The 2 Marlboro McLaren cars are very close on the circuit, although separated by almost a lap. And as De Angelis rounds Druids and accelerates away from it in 5th position, there is Prost coming out of it in 6th place, with ahead of them still Nigel Mansell, who's leading by nearly 17 seconds now. There is De Angelis 5th, being caught by Prost 6th.
Yes, and Prost has got him in visual contact now. And so I think 2 or 3 more laps, he'll be behind him and making his passing manoeuvre. De Angelis hasn't been in for tyres yet. I suspect that his rubber is getting a bit tired. And Prost, of course, still enjoying the effect of fairly fresh rubber on his car.
The composure and the tactical planning and implementing ability of Alain Prost is nothing short of amazing. He's got an almost computer-like brain when he's in the car. Nothing seems to rattle him. His tactics are always immaculate. He crosses the line now, and Elio De Angelis is closing up on John Watson. Now, John Watson may just be able to see Prost in his mirrors, in which case Watson could make it a bit tricky for De Angelis to get past him by occupying as much of the circuit as he legitimately can, which would allow Prost to close up on De Angelis in 5th place, and then John Watson could move over and let them both through, and he might even arrange things so that Prost got through before De Angelis. Watson here There's De Angelis, there is Prost. Watson is in 12th place. And now De Angelis has got to get past Watson quickly, because Watson will then know that Prost is behind him and will certainly move over as quickly as he possibly can. And Prost, as I said, is catching De Angelis. Prost 6th, De Angelis 5th, and if Prost can get past De Angelis and stay there, he is world champion at the end of this race. Well, irrespective of Watson, Prost is catching and goes through, and Alain Prost not only goes past De Angelis, but laps Watson, and the red and white Marlboro McLaren of Frenchman number 2, Alain Prost, is now on his way virtually to World Championship certainty.
Yes, because he looks like going fourth pretty soon too. He's only 5 seconds behind Stefan Johansson. And again, Johansson hasn't been in for tyres, so he's catching now. Here we see it again. And Prost goes up the inside line. De Angelis, I think, quite honestly, wasn't too worried about holding Prost back. He knew, he would have known that there was no way he was going to hold him off for long, so I think that Elio didn't bother to fight that, and why should he, because he wasn't going to hold him off, there was no point. And Prost is now off and after Stefan Johansson.
Well, we have been concentrating on this interesting development in the World Championship with Alain Prost charging through the field now and up into that vital 5th position. Up at the front, of course, is Nigel Mansell. He is now on his 57th lap. There he is, running reliably and true.
And they're playing with their boost a bit up the front, I think. It's my only explanation. And Stefan Johansson is in the pits. Johansson having a set of tyres. So that will put Prost up into 4th place anyway, as it indeed has done. So up front, Mansell is holding his gap with Mark Sierra, but it's bouncing about a bit. At the moment it's some 15 seconds. It was a bit more a few minutes ago, and it's got a bit less, but I strongly suspect that they're now, or particularly Nigel Mansell, is turning his boost down or trying to adjust his speed to Mark Sierra to keep his lead comfortable without, of course, overdoing his use of fuel.
And Alain Prost, of course, with Johansson there, not only in the pits, but I would sure out of the race, like Alboreto. Alain Prost is in 4th position, 3 points. That means to say that the World Championship is now more than truly riveted for Alain Prost, provided he can stay at minimum where he is now. For the rest of the race, we're on lap 57. There's 18 laps to go, including the lap that he's on. Nigel Mansell now 15 seconds nearly ahead of Mark Sierra, who is reliable. There's Mansell coming through to complete his 57th lap over the line now, and Mark Sierra is that 15 seconds behind Mansell now. Senna is 7 seconds behind Sura in 3rd place, and 23 seconds ahead of Prost in 4th position, with De Angelis now 5th. Keke Rosberg up to 6th position, so both the Williams Hondas are in the points, because with the disappearance of Stefan Johansson, Rosberg is back in the points. He's got ahead of Jacques Lafitte, who is down to 7th, and in 8th position is Lafitte's teammate Philippe Streff, who has been lapped. Boutsen is in 9th position, Patrese is 10th, John Watson is up to 11th, Gerhard Berger is in 12th position, and everybody up to Lafitte, who is 7th, has been lapped. Well, now the interest with seemingly the World Championship clinched for Alain Prost, provided he keeps going. But the McLaren has been incredibly reliable all season. Prost has only failed to finish twice, and in Estoril it was his fault and not the car's, because he spun off in the wet. There is Nigel Mansell into his 59th lap. What a wonderful race he's driven.
Well, the tremendous charge that we've seen from Alain Prost, I think, sadly, from a spectator's point of view, is over. He seems to have slowed it down, and there's no reason for him to go any faster, and I think he's going to settle for a steady 4th place, which will ensure in the championship. He's had too many frights over the last 3 years when the pressure's been too much for him, and he's made mistakes. This year he's looked a different person. He's been, whereas in the past the pressure seemed to crumble him and he never looked comfortable, this year his normally composed bearing has, if anything, got stronger and more resolute as the pressure's increased, so he doesn't look like making any mistakes now.
And he'll be watching the man ahead of him very carefully, because Riccardo Patrese in the green and red Alfa Romeo with the yellow wheels has got a bit of a reputation for being a blocker and even for taking people off. And with Johansson back in the race now, a full lap behind Alain Prost, and well, certainly more than a lap, and he's dropped well down the field. And there is Lafitte out of the race, out of the car, out of the race. All of a sudden, the famous Prost luck is working for him, because he's gained another place without passing anybody. Jacques Lafitte, well, no, Jacques Lafitte, I'm sorry, was behind Prost. I'd forgotten he'd slipped down through the race. But he was a big threat to Prost the way he was going. That threat has now been removed. We're in what is going to be a race of reliability now, with about 15 to go.
Except that Ayrton Senna is closing up a little bit on Marc Surer. He is some 6 seconds behind him, and he could conceivably catch him and start attacking before the end of the race.
Yeah, I'm finding it very interesting that Prost is not getting past Patrese, whose Alfa Romeo is certainly not the package in terms of handling and performance that the McLaren is, and that's giving Elio De Angelis the chance to get closer to Prost and hopefully to regain his 4th position.
Yes, that's absolutely right, Murray, but of course Prost doesn't want to take any risks at all. He doesn't mind if De Angelis passes him, because by coming 5th he still wins the championship, which is his sole concern. And Riccardo Patrese, who is the most accomplished taker-offer of other cars in the business, and has been for many years, is not the sort of entanglement that Prost wants to get involved in now.
Riccardo Patrese up behind Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows. Boutsen is in 8th position, Patrese is 9th. Alain Prost, of course, is in 4th position, and virtually a full lap ahead of the Alfa Romeo in the race. And there in flames is the Zach Speed of Christian Danner. They've had a lot of engine trouble with the Zach Speed turbocharged engine in practice and in previous races. This is Danner's 2nd Grand Prix, the 1985 Formula 3000 champion, and he's out. And still Prost is not doing anything about Patrese, and still De Angelis will be catching him. There he is, Elio De Angelis. As James says, Prost will not be too rattled, even if he finishes in 5th position, to get those vital 2 points. But there's going to be a danger for Prost, with De Angelis trying to get past him and Patrese making it difficult for Prost to get past him. So Alain Prost will have to really tiptoe around the circuit and watch the car in front of him and the car behind him very carefully indeed, to avoid being taken off. And it is lap 62 out of 75. Mansell still leads, still no tyre change. Surer is still 2nd. 3rd is Senna, 4th is Prost.
So I have to say that I don't fully agree with Prost's tactics. I think that his excessive defensiveness, I think he'd be better off getting past this bunch and getting away from them, because you run a risk whenever you're surrounded by other cars, and you're much better off on your own. And I think really that if I was in his place, I'd maybe try and pass them and just get away, because he's got 2 quick people bearing down on him. Johansson in the newly reshod Ferrari with fresh tyres on, and that's a bit of a good sight.
And it's Mark Surer who is second. That's the second of the Brabhams. Piquet went out much earlier, of course, and now the BMW, or the turbo, has blown, and this is fire extinguisher time, and it's out of the car time for Mark Surer, who was second. So back in second position is Senna. Up to third place goes Prost. In fourth position now, it's De Angelis catching Prost. In fifth position now, it's Rosberg. In sixth position, it is Streff.
Yes, well, of course, now that Prost, or as soon as Prost becomes aware of that development, he won't know by driving past that it was Mark Surer from second place, therefore moving him up. But in fact, now, what he could do, the alternative to try to pass this lot, he could just slow right down and let them go. But he would be better off, I would think, on a clear circuit instead of being in this group.
Yeah, there's a signal just gone out to Prost, but it would have been too soon for them, I'm sure, to have let him know that Surer is out of the race. They've got television monitors on the pit's wall, and they're watching readout information and race pictures.
See, the problem for Prost is that these three cars in front of him are fighting away, and if they touch... Incidentally, Stephanie Hansen, who was going so quickly, has gone back into the pits, but if those three cars in front in their own battle have a coming together, they could well take the others off, and that, I would guess, is Keke Rosberg coming behind, or is it Nigel Mansell? It's Rosberg, and Rosberg can pass Prost. He's on the same lap.
Yes, just listen to this. Mansell leads, Williams Honda. Senna is second, Prost is third, and Rosberg is right behind the Marlboro McLaren in fourth position, having come up after that disastrous coming together with Nelson Piquet and coming into the pits to change tyres. And Rosberg must be the fastest man on the circuit, although the lap record currently is held by Jacques Lafitte just before he retired. He broke Alain Prost's then lap record, and the new lap record now is 1 minute 11.5, which is 131.6 miles an hour, which is nearly 1.6 miles an hour. And is that Rosberg through? Yes, Rosberg is through, but I'm not sure, but I would think that it's because Rosberg's let him through, rather than because that Prost has let him through, rather than that Rosberg has done an incredible manoeuvre.
Yes, absolutely. The last thing Prost wants to do is to get involved in a battle that isn't necessary, and he would certainly have let Rosberg go. Rosberg is a man visibly in a hurry. Prost is a man who clearly isn't in a hurry. And that's just dropped him back to fourth place, which is absolutely fine for his purposes.
In this fascinating Shell Oil's Grand-Prix of Europe, we are on lap 66 out of 75. You are looking now at the fourth place man, Alain Prost, because Keke Rosberg has moved up to third. There he goes past Philippe Streff to lap him, and we now have the Williams Hondas first and third, and that is underlining, if ever there was a case, of the fact that the Williams Hondas with their new long-stroke Honda engines are right on top of Grand Prix racing. Prost, fourth, 3 points, one more than he needs to be world champion of 1985, but first he has to finish. He's got Boutsen ahead of him, and Boutsen is in seventh place, so he's about to be lapped by Prost, who is fourth. And in front of Boutsen is Philippe Streff. That's a terrific performance, and at last Alain Prost in the McLaren gets past the Arrows BMW to lap Thierry Boutsen, who is seventh. To go. Mansell, nearly 20 seconds ahead of Senna. We haven't said much about Senna recently, but he's driven, as ever, a terrific race. And he's had a good run of reliability in recent races. Second in Austria, third in Holland, third in Italy, and he won in Belgium. But for that mid-season patch of very bad luck, Senna could undoubtedly have been world champion. But life in general, and motor racing in particular, is full of ifs. And it's no good saying if I'd finished in those 6 races that I went out of, I would have been world champion. Prost did, and is likely to be. Race leader, Nigel Mansell, lap 68. Race distance, 75 laps. 8 including this one to go. And Nigel Mansell has led now for some 50 laps. He took the lead on lap 9. This is lap 68, so he's been leading for nearly 60 laps. A crushing demonstration of driver and car, oblique engine, oblique tyre superiority. A tribute to the race administration of Frank Williams, to the car designing ability of Patrick Head, to the power and reliability of the Honda engine, to the tyres which are Goodyear, to Alan Chalice, the chief mechanic of the Williams team and all his mechanics, and of course to the race engineers of the Williams Honda team. They are all just as essential as each other. Nigel's car still striking sparks from the titanium skid plates underneath it. There's nothing untoward about that. These cars now have got a ride height that is so low in order to maximise ground effects with the air going over the car and minimise disturbance under. And is Nigel Mansell slowing? No, optical illusion. I'm getting as bad as he is, because at this stage of the race, if you're a driver, you start to imagine all sorts of things wrong with the car that are not wrong with the car. And if you're watching to see a British driver come home in first place for the first time for a long, long time, because it's not since 1983, when John Watson won in the Marlboro McLaren at Long Beach, that a British driver has won a World Championship Grand Prix. Are we going to see Nigel Mansell with his dad Eric, his wife Roseanne, and his 2 children, Chloe and Leo, here, come home first for the first time in his career? And if he does it in front of a British crowd here at Bрэnds-Hэтch, we can expect them to almost match the Monza crowds in their post-race enthusiasm. Lap 68. Now Mansell is coming up to a batch of drivers, which includes Eddie Cheever, I think, in the Alfa. It's certainly one of the Alfa Romeos. There it is. No, it's Patrese. Well, keep your fingers crossed, everybody. And he's passed. The danger is over. Patrese has been passed. Now he's going to have a go at Philippe Streff, who's in 6th place. Nigel Mansell is about to lap the 6th place man. And it's Mansell leading, Senna 2nd, Rosberg 3rd, Prost 4th in a World Championship winning situation. It is De Angelis 5th, it is Streff 6th. Mansell closing up on Streff. He's going to power past on the inside. Streff moves over. Nigel Mansell goes through on the inside. That's another problem removed for him. No criticism of Streff, but whenever you're passing a driver at this stage of the race, particularly when you're in Nigel Mansell's position, you want to get past cleanly and smoothly and give yourself a clean track in front, and that's precisely what he's done. Lap 70. I need hardly say that the crowd at Brands is tense and is almost counting the laps disappearing on their fingers as they watch Nigel Mansell now closing up to the Marlboro McLaren in front of him. That of John Watson, which he will be lapping for a 2nd time, with Watson in 7th position. John Watson might even finish in the points on his return to Grand Prix racing. It only wants one car for any reason to go out of the race. And although that's unlikely, because at this stage of the race cars have settled down, and if anything was going to go wrong, it probably would have gone wrong before now. Nevertheless, John Watson from 21st on the grid, has got a chance of finishing in the points on his return to Grand Prix racing after 2 years. There he is. There's Mansell. Mansell out of Druids Hill Bend into Graham Hill Bend. Leading now by 15 seconds. And although the Williams mechanics are ready to change tyres, they are obviously standing down at ease, because they're not in a go situation so far as changing tyres is concerned. So Nigel Mansell obviously intends to go through the race, and we are now with the world champion designate of 1985, after one of the most perfect seasons I can remember, because although we say Alain Prost here has won 5 Grand Prix this year, and this is the 14th to be held, we should not forget that in fact he actually won 6, and the 6th, the San Marino Grand Prix, was disallowed through no fault of his own, because his car was 2 kilograms overweight at the end of the race. And he is now on his 71st lap. After victory in Brazil, at Monaco, in Britain, in Austria, in Italy, and in Italy too at San Marino. Second in the German Grand Prix, third in the Canadian Grand Prix, third in the French Grand Prix, third in the Belgian Grand Prix. He has failed to finish only twice, once his own fault, through spinning off in the appalling weather conditions at Estoril. He has almost had a possible, in rifle shooting terms, almost, and he's going to be finishing in his lowest position this year if he stays where he is, that is 4th, but it will be 1 point more than he needs to become world champion, to make a personal fortune on top of the very, very substantial amount of money he will already have made. And that is Alain Prost's 71st lap completed. Here is the race leader. Let's go round with Nigel Mansell as he closes up on the Arrows BMW. The first British victory, keeping everybody's fingers crossed since Long Beach 1983. John Watson, who is in this race, now in 7th position. Mansell, that we look at in this superbly balanced Williams Honda, getting its 2nd Grand Prix win of the year, because its first was when Keke Rosberg won in Detroit, and we've got so used to seeing the Williams winning 1 Grand Prix a year in recent years, although don't forget that Alan Jones was world champion in the Grand Prix Williams Honda back in 1980, but we've got so used to seeing the Williams Honda win just 1 Grand Prix that it's a wonderful experience to see them with a likelihood, indeed hopefully an almost certainty of winning 2.
Well, a marvellous drive by Nigel Mansell. I felt that his drive at Spa in those difficult conditions a couple of weeks ago, as it were, brought him of age, and I think that by overcoming those difficulties, driving so coolly, that would put some maturity on him, and he's certainly shown that today. He's driven absolutely immaculately, he hasn't really put a foot wrong, and it must be a great encouragement to Frank Williams too, because the team have worked very hard for a couple of years to get this car right and matched up correctly to its Honda engine, and to get the Honda engine right, and really they must be very pleased indeed. A nice note for them to start winding up the 1985 season and give them a lot of confidence for 1986.
Lap 74 out of 75. Considerably less than 4 miles to go now before Nigel Mansell sees the checkered flag first for the first time in his career. 72 Grand Prix he has driven, and this is going to be his highest ever finish. A wonderful drive. This has certainly not been a case of a lucky win. He's dominated the race since he thrust his way through on lap 9 into the lead. And now he comes out of clearways and takes the checkered flag. And Nigel Mansell has won the Shell Oils Grand Prix of Europe. He is exultant, he is exuberant, and he's got every justification to be. I must admit that I have been looking forward to saying this for a long time, and here is Ayrton Senna finishing in second place. A brilliant win for Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda, a superb second for Ayrton Senna, and then it should be Keke Rosberg in third position, and the world champion designate is coming home now to complete his race, to get fourth, 3 points to increase the gap between himself and Michele Alboreto to 19 points, which makes him absolutely uncatchable in the World Championship of 1985. And just as Niki Lauda, who is not here today, won the championship for Marlboro McLaren in 1984, so now does Alain Prost do so for the Marlboro McLaren team, and there they are. They know what they've done, he knows what he's done, and for Prost and for the team, for Ron Dennis, for John Barnard, for the race engineers, for the McLaren mechanics, for the tag concern and the Porsche technicians that provided the engine, for Goodyear, it's been a magnificent Shell Oils Europe Grand Prix of Europe. But let us not forget that that race was won by Nigel Mansell. Well, here he is. He said he was going to drive a tactical race. He's done just that. And there is the result. Victory for the first time in his career, and surely it will not be the last. For Nigel Mansell from Port Erin in the Isle of Man, now undoubtedly the Isle of Man's most famous inhabitant. Second, Ayrton Senna. Third, Keke Rosberg. A marvellous race for Williams with first and third places, and an unbelievable race for McLaren with Alain Prost, and of course an increase in the World Championship Constructors lead with Michele Alboreto, and there is Alboreto incidentally disconsolately walking away, and Johansson out of the race, and McLaren therefore looking stronger and stronger for the Constructors Championship for the second year in succession.
Yes, but I'm sure they'll be thinking only about winning the Drivers' Championship for the time being. Marvellous performance by Alain Prost. He did exactly as we expected to do. He drove conservatively. He wasn't going to take any risk to throw it away. And so his was a fairly unexciting race from our point of view, but we got plenty of excitement from Nigel Mansell, and really a marvellous moment for him. He's worked very hard for a long time. He's deserved a Grand Prix win, and to do it at home on one's home ground is a marvellously emotional experience, and I'm sure Mansell will be a jolly happy man tonight, and very nice that his father was here to see it.
And his wife and children, of course. Nigel's one regret that will be that his mother was not here to see it. Unfortunately, she died last year, and Nigel credited his next race to his mother, but at least one of his parents has been here for what must be, for Eric Mansell, the happiest day of his life, and certainly for Nigel Mansell too, the happiest day of his life. And for these British enthusiasts who are here in their many thousands, a very, very happy day too, because they have seen the British Williams team first and second. They've seen the British JPS Lotus team in second place. They've seen the British Marlboro McLaren team fourth and winning the Drivers' Championship with Alain Prost. They've seen JPS Lotus finish in fifth place with Elio De Angelis, and they've seen the Arrows team in sixth position. Brands has as ever lived up to its reputation of putting on exciting racing, a truly memorable event, and let us also say a very, very heartfelt thank you to the weatherman, because we thought when the day began that we may well have weather problems which could partially destroy what we hoped would be a superb race. That, thankfully, has proved not to be the case. Where is the man? Where is Nigel Mansell? Well, he's amongst that crowd, making his way up to the rostrum opposite the grandstand, and when that laurel wreath is given to Nigel Mansell, I can mentally hear an absolute roar from the crowd, and how richly it will have been deserved. I can see Keke Rosberg walking into the box, and Nigel Mansell has now added 9 points to the only 13 he had already. There is Senna, second. There is Prost, the world champion of 1985, in 4th position. There is Keke Rosberg on the left, who is third. Where is the winner? I suspect he's having to fight his way up to the... There he is! There is Nigel Mansell, and there is the roar! He's done it. I can tell from the expression on Nigel's face that he's tired. He was going to have 2 pain-killing injections to help him overcome the chest pains that he was having from those torn muscles after fighting the car to a standstill when his steering wheel broke in practice for the Belgian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. Keke Rosberg, world champion of 1982, and Frank Williams, there's the smiling Frank Williams, who's now seen yet another driver join men like Alan Jones, Carlos Reutemann and Keke Rosberg as Grand Prix winners, and he congratulates the new world champion Alain Prost. But this was a day for 2 men. The little man in the middle, Alain Prost, with the charming manner and the winning ways. But there's the man with the winning way, with that very, very special cut glass bowl. Nigel Mansell. I don't think Nigel Mansell, I think he's in an exhausted state, actually. I'm sure he's suffering pain. And there is the magnificent gold cup. Senna, you can just see him. Yes. That's Frank Williams, who has created a team from nothing. Frank, an ex-Formula 3 racer himself, who made money wheeling and dealing, buying and selling cars, living on the breadline in order to build a team. And now he's got one of the finest teams in the business. He's got a magnificent factory at Didcot, a superb engineering business. And the only thing I personally regret is that Patrick Head, the car's designer, is not up there on the rostrum with Frank Williams, Keke Rosberg and race winner Nigel Mansell, because this race was every bit as much his victory as it was that of Nigel Mansell and Frank Williams. Well, Nigel, looking as though he's about to nod off and finish 20th, never mind having won his first Grand Prix. But I'm sure that's not because he's not very happy, it's because he's in a bit of a shape. Emotion-laden, heartstring-tugging time for Nigel Mansell, for the British crowd, for Frank Williams, for Alain Prost, for the McLaren team, for Keke Rosberg. And you can see that from the way Nigel is carrying his left arm and hand, that he has indeed got a chest muscles problem. Away goes the champagne, which I always think is a charm. Take that, Alain Prost. That's for being world champion. And that is a very good place not to be after a race, I can tell you. Ayrton Senna's got a face for, and is stinging his eyes. Prost, the world champion, Nigel Mansell, the race winner, the two top men of the race. But let us not forget either that Mark Surer drove a super race, holding second place until his engine blew in the closing stages. So many of them did. Ayrton Senna, who with that second place has added another 6 points to his score to give him 38 points and to increase certainly his championship lead over, not his championship lead, his championship position placing over Elio De Angelis. And now let us hear from the world champion and Barry Gill.
Alain Prost, many congratulations. How does it feel?
I feel well. I can't feel, very happy because it's too soon. And everything was going so bad at the beginning and so well at the end. I never felt very bad in the car because I knew that Boreto was not very quick. But honestly, I'm very happy to finish the championship here, because especially with this place, and because I had a lot of pressure the last 2 or 3 years at the end of the championship, and I want to go to the last 2 races very quiet, and I want to win. Now I want to win the race.
What does it mean to you to be the first Frenchman ever to win the Grand-Prix World Championship, a country that gave us the name Grand-Prix?
I know that it is very important for the French people, but I think for me it's important to win a championship. I don't care too much if I'm French or not. I think I'm not too nationalist, it's a shame, but I'm very happy for them anyway, because if the problem is if I'm world champion, it's because of my English team and all the things. I don't want to be too concentrated on one country, because I am world champion. It's all the world is mine. It's not only one country.
You've been kind enough to mention the team. What is the secret of McLaren winning 2 world championships in 2 consecutive years?
I think we have... It's difficult to tell. I don't think we have maybe the best car or the best engine. It's difficult to tell that. I think we have the best compromise for sure, because the chassis is very good, the engine is very good. We have a good combination of both. We don't use too much tires. And we have a good politic in the team. We don't change too many things every race, and we have a good reliability. And I think that makes I finish almost every race at the moment, and it's very important.
And how are you going to celebrate tonight?
A championship like that, I'm waiting for a long time. I don't want to be completely crazy one day. I think it's very important for me to celebrate with my friends, but I think the problem is I'm going to have a lot of work in France, and I think I'm going to feel much better after 2 or 3 days, or maybe 1 week, and I will celebrate not only one time.
Alan, congratulations, superb tactical race, and thank you for winning here at Bрэnds-Hэтч, where you have so many fans.
My heart always reaches out to Alain Prost on an occasion like this, when you remember that he's speaking in a foreign language. He had to come over here and learn to speak English. But the man of the race, quite apart from Alain Prost, was, of course, the winner. Here he is, Nigel Mansell, Barry Gill.
Nigel Mansell, at the beginning of the race, you said you could win this one, your 72nd race for Britain, and you've done it. How does it feel?
Fantastic. I don't think it'll sink in until later this evening, but I'm having a job catching my breath at the moment, because the old ribs now have stopped racing. The pain's coming back. But yeah, I'll tell you, it's just fantastic.
What about the reception of this crowd?
They're just unbelievable. If anybody's won the race for me today, it's the people out there. They've just been unbelievable. On the last few laps, I could just see them. It was just extraordinary. Best feeling I've ever had in my life.
Nigel, we stood next to your father watching the last 20 laps. He was counting down. Were you counting down in the cockpit?
No, I didn't want to. I was getting a little annoyed with my pit crew because they weren't telling me how many laps to go, but I knew why, because I saw lap 10, and then they didn't give me anything until lap 4, and then they didn't give me any more laps to go, and it was just the crowd that told me how long it was.
You really knew from the crowd what was going on?
Yeah, I knew more from the crowd than anything else.
Nigel, this team has now proved it's a winner. Can we now see, we've had the first British winner since 1983, the first British winner at home since 81. Can we have the first British world champion since is James Hunt, our commentator.
All I promise everybody in England is, like today, we'll be doing our best. I believe now I'm with one of the best teams for next year. The Honda engine and the Japanese people are just fantastic to work with. And my mechanics, I mean, God bless them, I mean, they've done a fantastic job.
Nigel, let's hand you back to the crowd who are waiting to cheer you. Let's hope it's the first of many.
Thank you.
Well, two very emotional drivers, and who can blame them? I think, as they both said, it doesn't sink in that fast, but they certainly looked very happy, and what a marvellous day it's been at Bрэnds-Hэтch. We had tremendous weather here, a good race. Nigel Mansell opening his account as a Grand Prix winner in his home Grand Prix, and of course Alain Prost at long last, after such a long struggle and knocking on the door so many times for the World Championship, has this time done it.
Now, let us not forget that this race was put on at the last possible moment by John Webb and his Bрэnds-Hэтch colleagues, and what a magnificent job they've all done. Confirmation then that the Shell Oils Grand Prix of Europe has been won by Nigel Mansell, his first victory in his Williams Honda, I'm sure not his last.